Assalamualaikum and hi, a very good day to ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nur Suhaila binti Uzaizan. My metric number is 257190. First of all, we would like to thank to our respected lecturer, Sir Amizam Azami, as a good guidance in our history of economic thoughts in Group B. Our group was assigned to discuss in detail about Marx's theory of law of motions of capitalism, and we will briefly compare that theory with the theory of economics development by Adam Smith. As I was a first presenter, I would like to discuss about the Marx biography. Karl Heinrich Marx was a German philosopher, economist, historian, socialist, political theorist, journalist, and social evolutionary, which born in 5 May 1818 in Prussia, Germany, and died on 14 March 1883. He married Jenny von Westphalen in 1843. She was a theatre critic and political activist. Due to political publications, Marx became stateless and lived in exile with his wife and children in London for decades, where he continued to develop his thoughts in collaborating with German thinker Friedrich Engels and published his writing, researching in the reading room of in British Museum. His best-known titles are the 1848 pamphlets, the Communist Manifesto, and the three-volume Das Kapital, 1867 until 1883. His also name been used as an objective of social theory. Now I will talk about the Marx theory of history. For Marx, theory is a process through which the static ROP thesis come into eventual conflict with the dynamics FOP antithesis. The result of conflict evolutionizes the system, which is the new ROP synthesis, permit the higher development of the FOP. The mechanism of overthrowing old society is by the class struggle. In theory of history, Marx saw society evolving through 6 stages, which is from primitive communism to slavery, feudalism, capitalism, socialism to communism. The purpose of this assignment is to discuss in detail why capitalism face internal contradictions and cause class struggle that lead to its being overthrown, replaced by socialism. Now I will talk about the Marx theory of history. For Marx, theory is a process through the statics ROP thesis come into eventual conflict with the dynamic FOP antithesis. The result of conflict evolutionizes the system, which is the new ROP synthesis, permit the higher development of the FOP. The mechanism of overthrowing old society is by the class struggle. In theory of history, Marx saw society evolving through 6 stages, which is from primitive communism, slavery, feudalism, capitalism, socialism, and communism. The purpose of this assignment is to discuss in detail why capitalism face internal contradiction and cause class struggle that lead its being overthrown and replaced by socialism. Using history of history as a backdrop, Marx sought to lay bare economics, law of motions, LOM, of modern society. Karl Marx wanted to determine the process through which is the force of productions FOP within capitalism would produce the antithesis and inevitable demise, just as had slavery and feudalism earlier. 6 important in a related concept in the law of motions of capitalism are: first, labor theory of value; Second is the theory of exploitations. Third is the capital accumulation, which is falling rates of profits, business crisis, and technological unemployment. Fourth is centralized of capital and concentrations of wealth. Fifth is the reserve army of the unemployment and immiserizations of the proletariat. And the last one is the class conflicts. This is the diagram to conclude the Karl Marx law of motions. Now I will pass to my group member to continue the discussion.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Atika binti Saman and my number matric is 261758. I will continue about the labor theory of value. Analysis of commodities in capitalist society. Commodity is something produced for profit and can satisfy human wants. Commodity have use value, which is VIU, and exchange value, VIE. Marx only focused his discussion on exchange value, VIE. Socially necessary labor time, SNLT, determines the VIE of a commodity. SNLT includes 1. The direct labor in producing the commodity. 2. The labor included in the machinery and raw materials that use up during the process of production. And lastly, the value transferred to the commodity during this process. Okay, example, suppose that the average SNLT to produce a pair of shoes is 10 hours. The average SNLT for the value of the shoes, even though some workers will take less or more time to produce that pair of shoes. Example 1, competent workers takes only 5 hours to produce a pair of shoes. Example 2, incompetent worker takes 20 hours to produce a pair of shoes. Theory of exploitation. In this theory, there are labor time more than labor power, surplus value, the rate of surplus value, and the rate of profit. So what is exploitation? Exploitation is an action of using someone unfairly for your own advantage. Karl Marx says that profit is extracted from the hours worked, for which workers are not fully compensated. If the working day is 8 hours, the worker is compensated for half the value of time. The capitalist uses the productive forces such as land, labor, and capital to extract profit, which is the basis for accumulating wealth. The owners of the means of production own the surplus, which increases their existing property but does not increase but does not create any such property for the workers who actually produce it. Labor power versus labor time. So what is labor power? Labor power refers to a person's ability to work and produce commodities. Labor power itself a commodity that is bought and sold in the market. It is what the capitalist needs to make profits. Labor time is the actual process and duration of work, considering normal conditions of production and the average skill and intensity of labor at the time. Labor time includes the direct labor in producing the commodity. What determines the value of labor power? The socially necessary labor time, SNLT, required to produce the cultural necessities of life consumed by the workers. For example, if the necessities could be produced in 4 hours per day, the value of the commodity labor power would be 4 hours of labor time per day. If the necessities could be produced only in 2 hours per day, the value of the commodity labor power would be 2 hours of labor time per day, which is the value of labor power, would fall 50%. Two important points require emphasis here. First, market wage paid to workers were according to the labor power, which is market wage equal to labor power equal to SNLT. Second, market wage is sufficient only to purchase the cultural subsistence required for survival and proportion of the labor force. And lastly, capitalism produces a large reserve army of the unemployed, and this excess supplies of labor dictates that over the long run, the average wage will remain near the cultural level of subsistence. Karl Marx.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Mia Sarah Bettina Zahir. My plate number is P62447. Next, I will explain about surplus value. The exploitation of workers, the extraction of surplus value by capitalists cannot occur when the productivity of labor is so low that the workers have to consume goods equivalent in value to their own output in order to survive. Labor power is equal to labor time. The exploitation of labor only arises when workers can produce more in a day than they must consume in order to maintain themselves and their families. Employers pay the workers the full market value of their labor power, but the daily pay equals only part of the value the labor spread. Capitalists are in a position to set the length of the workday and, in a sense, say to workers, work the number of hours that we set or choose not to work for us at all. Necessity forces the workers to optional to work, but the labor time they spend during the workday creates a larger sum of value than the value of their own labor power. The owners of the means of production garner a surplus value. Next, I will explain about rate of surplus value or rate of exploitation. Marx designed the part of capital invest in machinery and raw materials as constant capital, which is C, while the capital that grows as wage for the purchases of labor power is V. The extra value it produces, which the capitalist takes without compensating the workers who produce it, is called surplus value, which is S. The rate of surplus value is S apostrophe, or we can call that the rate of exploitation. For the rate of surplus or rate of exploitation formula, which is S apostrophe is equal to S over V times 100. S apostrophe equal to unpaid labor time times over paid labor time times 100. And for the Marx theory of exploitation, for the X is workday hours and Y is total money cost of production. The capitalists employ the labor whom they supply with the required machinery to convert raw cotton into yarn. Suppose that in 6 hours of labor time, the total money cost of production is 15 ringgit, which is on the top of the graph, 3 for labor power, and then in the middle, 10 for cotton, and the below is 2 for use up value of the spillers. For the assumption, 15 ringgit is the normal profit. According to Marx, the capitalists pay the worker the market value of his or her labor power. The next assumption is it takes only 6 hours of labor time to produce sufficient output to pay for this labor power. Okay, for the next theory, for the x-axis is 12 hours workday, and the y-axis is total money cost of production. One way capitalists can gain profit is to lengthen the working day for labor without paying their extra labor time. It is labor time over the labor power. So for example, by forcing the worker to work on extra 6 hours, which is 7 to 12. You can see from the graph is the second bar chart. The capitalist secure a surplus value of 3 ringgit, which is exploitation of labor. We can calculate by use the formula of the rate of surplus value, which is for the next 6 hours, 7 to 12, we can calculate by 3 over 3 times 100, so we can get 100% of the rate of exploitation. So the rate of exploitation is 100%, which is 3 ringgit of surplus value over 3 ringgit of the labor power paid to labor times 100. If the capitalists want to gain extra surplus value, they can force their workers to work for another 6 hours, which is 13 to 18. The capitalists secure another surplus value of 3 ringgit. The rate of exploitation is 200%, which is 6 ringgit of the surplus value, 3 plus 3, over 3 ringgit of the labor power paid to labor, times 100. Okay. If the capitalists want to gain extra surplus value, they can force the workers to work for another 6 hours, which is 13 to 18 hours. The capitalists secure another surplus of 3 ringgit. Okay, we can calculate by 6 minus by 6 over 3 times 100, so we can get 200%. 200%. So for the conclusion, by asking the worker to work extra hours, labor can be exploited by their employers to gain profit. Next, alternative approach to calculate rate of surplus or rate of exploitation. The normal paid working hours is 6 hours. First is extend to 12 hours, which is plus 6. We can calculate by 6 over 6 times 100, so we can get 100% of rate of exploitation. Second is extend to 18 hours, which is plus 12. We can calculate by 12 over 6 times 100, so we can get 200% of the rate of exploitation. The third is extend to 15 hours, which is plus 9. We can calculate by 9 over 6 times 100. We can get 150% of the rate of exploitation. Fourth is extend to 9 hours, which is plus 3. We can calculate by 3 over 6 times 100, so we can get 50% of rate of exploitation. Okay, next, even if the working day will not length, surplus value could be increased by raising the efficiency of production and thus reducing the value of the workers' labor power. If the workers' necessity could be produced in a shorter time, a larger share of the new value would go to the capitalists. Suppose the working day was shortened from 12 hours to 10 hours, but instead of being divided into 6 hours of paid labor for the workers and 6 for the capitalists, it was divided into 4 for the workers and 6 for the capitalists. The rate of exploitation would rise from 100%, which is 6 over 6 times 100, to 150%, which is 6 over 4 times 100. There are two modes of exploitation. The first one is lengthened working day. Absolute surplus value is equal to length the working day without a corresponding increase in labor compensation. For example, it's work longer. For the second is increased productivity, which is relative surplus value is equal to decrease the necessary labor time needed to reproduce labor power. This is accomplished by cheapening the value of labor power by increasing productivity. For example, is increase the productivity. That's all for me. Thank you.
A very good morning to my lecturer and fellow friends. My name is Lim Soo Feng and my metric number is 261699. Now I will continue with the rate of profit. The rate of profit or P prime in Marx formulation is the ratio of surplus value to the total capital invested. So P prime equals to surplus value divided by constant capital plus variable capital times 100. Here we given the total production cost for first to 6 hours workday is 50 ringgit. The total production cost for 7 to 12 hours workday is 12 ringgit, and the total production cost for the following 13 to 18 hours workday is also 12 ringgit as well. To calculate the total production cost for 12 hours, we use the 50 ringgit for the first 6 hours plus the 12 ringgit for the 7 to 12 hours, and we get 27 in total. So the surplus value for 12 hours is 3 ringgit. Then we plug in the total production cost and surplus value for 12 hours into the rate of profit formula, where P prime equals to 3 over 27 times 100 equals to 11.1%. Whereas to calculate the total production cost for 18 hours, we add up all the 50 ringgit, 12 ringgit, and 12 ringgit, and we get 39 ringgit. So the surplus value is 6 ringgit. By total up 3 and 3 ringgit, so we get 15 ringgit, 6 ringgit. Then we plug in all the figures into the rate of profit formula, where P prime equals to 6 over 39 times 100, and we get 15.4% the rate of profit. Moving on to the capital accumulation. The definition of capital accumulation is a social, economic, and political process that requires the destruction or summation of the commons to capital, its substitution by a collective that is commanded by capital, the transformation of labor into wage labor, the production and expropriation of surplus value, and the realization of such surplus value as profits in the market. According to Marx, the rate of profit received by capitalists will tend to fall over the long run. Why this happens? It's because of the driving toward increasing efficiency through two things, which is mechanization and labor-saving inventions. Mechanization is the desire to improve productivity by using machinery, while labor-saving inventions is a replacement of labor with machine. Both tend to use machinery instead of labor to improve productivity. This raises what Marxists call the organic composition of capital as Q. The formula of organic composition of capital Q is equal to constant capital C over total capital C plus B. There's an alternative of profit rate equation, which is rate of profit P prime equals to the rate of surplus value S prime times 1 minus organic composition of capital Q. This new equation indicates that the rate of profit P prime varies directly with the rate of surplus value S prime and varies inversely with the organic composition of capital Q. So, as capitalists invest more in machinery and less in labor power, the organic composition of capital raises and rate of profit falls. Why capitalists use more capital and fewer labor or workers, even though they know that the rate of profit will be reduced? There are two reasons. First, the firm that leads in promoting efficient production through the greater use of more and better constant capital or machinery will lower its cost of production. Eventually, product prices will fall and other firms who cannot compete and survive will leave the market. The second reason is the greater the efficiency of production, the lower the value of labor power. The number of hours required to produce the subsistence and the greater the total amount of profit produced per working day. And the dynamic of capitalism will lead to an increase of organic composition of capital. Besides, Marx also perceives certain offsetting forces to the falling rate of profit. First, the intensity of exploitation can be raised by forcing the workers to increase their pace of work or by lengthening their working day. Second, wages temporarily may be cut below their value. Third, the constant capital may be cheapened. The ratio of constant capital to labor is a value relationship, and as machinery and raw materials become cheaper, the rise in the organic composition of capital and the fall in the rate of profit both becomes lower. Fourth, growing population in relation to jobs and increasing technological unemployment are conducive to setting up new industries that use much labor and little capital. The high rates of profits in such industries enter into the average rate of profit for the system as a whole. Fifth, foreign trade raises the rate of profit by cheapening the elements of both constant capital and the necessities of life. Finally, the rate of exploitation is increased by reducing the value of labor power through increase in efficiency of production. These several factors that partially offset the falling rate of profit will increase the rate of exploitation and further immiserize the proletariat. Hence, class consciousness is heightened and the probability of revolution is increased. That's all from me. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Alshidri and my matric number is 261411. I will continue the capital accumulation and business crisis. Marx attack law say law, stating that C to M to C is best applied only to simple community production. That is, the money is just a medium of exchange. So under large-scale capitalist production, the process of exchange becomes M to C to M. This the people buy in the order to sell, and the money change into communities such as labor power and raw materials, then sold it for money. Then might extend the process of exchange to become M to C to M prime. The M prime is larger than M because the exploitation of labor power. This is process of expanding investment for capital accumulation. Rapid investment in capital and labor temporarily increase the demand for labor and increase the wage that capitalists must pay. However, this higher wage reduce the rate of surplus value and profit, and need the expansion and selling the economy into the opposite direction. The expansion that result destroy the monetary value of fixed capital, enabling the larger capitalists to buy up smaller one at beginning price. So some factories close. Price of commodity flow. Credit contract at the waste flow. The rate of surplus value and profit just get destroyed and investment increase again. According to Marx, each business cycle is of larger magnitude than the previous one, adding to the condition that produce class struggle and the social revolution. Can see this figure. Next is the capital accumulation and the technological employment. These the workers are thrown out of work by the machine or that in the contemporary term become the technologically unemployment. The next is centralization of capital and the concentration of wage. The first one is going side of frame weaknessly is the competitor into flower hands. The next is emerging of the monopoly power occurred due to the increasing of competition, centralization, and the concentration. The third is the larger firm able to obtain economy of scale and the producing at a lower average cost as compared to the small firm. The fourth is the elimination of the smaller firm and the growth of monopoly firm occur when there is the competition between the largest, the lower cost firm, and the smaller firm. The last is capital accumulation, economy of scale, and the dominance of the corporations in business organization could bring to the concentration and the centralization of capital into firms. Next is the reserve aiming of the employment and the immigration of the foreign trade. The first one is market weight is sufficient only to purpose the cultural subsistence required for the survival and the perpetuation of the labor force. Then the worker is forced to work sufficiently longer to create the surplus value of the capitalist. So the labor were replaced by the machine, become the employment rate increase. So finally, the labor were poor and jobless. Then the class conflict. The concentration of the wealth among fewer and fewer capitalists, such as absolute and relative improvement of the workers' lands, lead to the class conflict. Capitalists accumulate their wealth while employing workers, so the growing is misery, obsession, slavery, degradation, exploitation of the worker raise their sense of solidarity and will to resolve. The relation of the production that is a ROP under capitalism come to conflict with the force of production that is a FOP, and the former are rapidly transformed. Then the worker overthrew the capitalist and established the dictator of the production. And the private ownership is replaced by the state ownership of production, and the rate of capitalist expansion is stabilized, and the exploitation of worker is eliminated. So the capitalist to become to the socialist. That's all for me. Thank you.
Okay, a very good day to our lecturer, Sir Anizam. And my name is Wang Xingyi, and my metric number is 261352. Now I would like to thank you to previous presenter, which are my team members. Thank you. And now I would like to present about the consequence of capital accumulation of Adam Smith versus Karl Marx. This is the figure for Adam Smith of Theory of Economic Development. At arrow A, Smith contended that the division of labor DOL per capita accumulation. Both DOL and capital accumulation work together to increase the labor productivity at arrow B and C. This is because that the DOL and capital accumulation can save time, increase labor skills and specializations, and promote the creation of new machines. At arrow D, the rises in labor productivity increase the national output, which widens the markets, justify the further DOL and capital accumulation at arrow F. As a result of capital accumulation, the wages found increase at arrow G. Increase in wages found means that the demand of labor increased. If the demand of labor exceeds the supply of labor, so the wages will rise at arrow H. At arrow I, higher wages motivate further productivity growth. The rises in national output increase the goods available for consumption, which for Smith constitute a rise in wealth of nation. At arrow D and E. Next, this is the figure for Karl Marx's law of motion. According to Marx, because of labor is the sources of all values, surplus value, and profits arise through exploitation of worker at arrow A. So, competition among capitalists results in capital accumulation at arrow B, which causes a falling rate of profit, business crisis, and technology unemployment at arrow C, D, and E. These outcomes produce centralization of capital and concentration of wealth at arrow F and G, as well as rising the unemployment and poverty at arrow H, I, and J. These polarizations of capitalists and workers leads to class conflict and overthrow the capitalism at arrow K and F. Next, in conclusion, we can say that Adam Smith believes that capital accumulation will bring positive effects. According to Smith's theory of economic development, division of labor spurs capital accumulation. Both division of labor and capital accumulation will increase labor productivity and then increase the national output. As a result of capital accumulation, wages found increase and wages rises, and this will motivate further productivity growth. The rise in national output increase the growth available for consumption, thus constitute the wealth of nations. While Karl Marx believes that capital accumulation will bring negative effects. According to Karl Marx's law of motion theory, capital accumulation will cause a falling rate of profit, business crisis, and technology unemployment. These outcomes produce centralization of capital and concentration of wealth, as well as rising unemployment and poverty. The polarization of capitalists and workers leads to class conflict and the collapse of capitalism. And thank you. That is all from us. Thank you to our lecturer lending your ears and spending time with us. Thank you.